everybody. Good evening. Om Jnananandamayam Devam Nirmalaspatikakritim Adharam Sarva Vidyanam Hayagrivam Upasmahe Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvi Navadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shantihi. Welcome back to this session. Looks like I missed a prayer yesterday. Sorry for that. I'm made up by two prayers today. And I think also we didn't repeat the fourth verse of the fourth chapter. Anyway, we'll get to that. Just a small note that Dr. Raju sent me yesterday. I think it's very nice. I'd like to share with you. This is about the Swadharma and related concept. I mean, it's definitely something that requires a lot of thought, and we need to revisit this multiple times to understand it in the right sense, and also in a way that is applicable to us. So I just take a few minutes to share what he has sent. So he has put together the concepts of Swadharma, Swabhava, and Swarupa. Okay. Of course, this is slightly more technical, but when we talk about Swadharma, it is mostly to do with what is most natural to us and how we fit into the society at large, and also in the community and family at different levels. So that is one aspect. So there is the personal aspect of Swadharma, there is the familial aspect aligning to that, and the community aspect. And at no point of time, we've discussed this earlier also, at no point of time Swadharma can violate the Sadharana Dharma. Swadharma should not violate what is good. So you cannot, the Swadharma of somebody cannot be to, indiscriminately go about beating up people or something. That cannot be the Swadharma, right? So within the framework of the larger Dharma, finding what is most natural to us. And when we talk about the Swabhava, then we have the framework of the gunas, Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. And this determines how we interact with the world, what decisions we make, based on, we will discuss, of course, Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas in greater detail in the 14th and 17th and 18th chapters. So the manner in which these gunas interact with one another is the way in which we deal with the world and we take certain decisions in our life. Then the Swarupa is the fundamental nature of the being, which in the, the Advaita Vedanta school, they talk about Satchit Ananda as being the, representation of Brahman. But that's a technical thing. We will not go into that. But basically, there is this idea of the fundamental being, our very, very basic innate nature, which is the Atman, or the higher self, which is a witness to all these things and which helps in correcting the lower self. Then there is the different gunas that are working with one another, which which shape us in a certain way. Then there is Swadharma, which is the innate nature of somebody and the abilities that they have and the best way in which they can be happy and they can contribute to society. So this, and when we can see this also when we try to see what is the framework of dharma and how people are aligned to their Swadharma. So there may be people who are behaving in a natural way, aligned to their what they think is right, but it may be violating dharma, in which case they have to do a course correction. So, for example, in the case of Duryodhana, he was following his Swadharma in a sense, which is to be vile and wicked and so on. But that is against dharma. So, a person who has aligned himself to Swadharma also need to align that Swadharma to the larger Dharma. So that's also like what a lot of these career counselors say. If you have a certain skill which is not viable in the marketplace as it is, you try to convert that into something which makes sense, which will get you money. So if you're a writer, you can't make any money being a writer, at least in India, at least today, it's difficult. So you have writing skills. So use that to become a technical writer or a copywriter or write for films or something else, which will generate you some income. But if you just want to be a writer, it's very difficult. So like that, we have to tune ourselves. So you take your Swadharma, but also tune it. So ensure that it aligns with the larger Dharma. So this is, something that you have to contemplate upon over time. And there are certain things which are very difficult to explain. So once you think about it and you realize it, that will have more value than any sort of explanation or reading a text or something like that. Okay, so with this, thanks to Dr. Raju for this sharing this with me, and also I must thank Suresh ji for religiously, meticulously recording everyday session, putting it up, and also putting it on the Excel sheet. So if you have any references, if you want any immediate reference, you can go to the Excel sheet and listen to that. Like I've said in the past, it's always good to, if possible, recite all the shlokas what we covered in that day at the end of the session or sometime during the day. So you have that in your active memory, and over a period of time, at least if not the whole 700, it will be good to pick up very, very important shlokas which are very meaningful. If you commit it to memory, it's like having a emotional first aid kit all the time with you. So with this, let us get to the fourth chapter. We had just started the fourth chapter, and let's repeat. I think we have requested Rajeshwari ji to continue today because there was hardly anything yesterday. So the fourth verse is where Arjuna is stuck. How do you know? You are born, like, you're my contemporary. How could you have taught Vivaswan, who was born eons ago? So Arjuna uvacha.
Arjuna uvacha.
Aparam bhavato janma.
Aparam bhavato janma.
Param janma vivasvatah.
Param janma vivatsvatah.
Kathametad vijaniyam.
Kathametad vijaniyam. Yam.
Tvamadau proktavaniti.
Tvamadau proktavaniti.
Then Krishna replies. He says, Sri Bhagavan vacha. Bahuni me vyatitani janmani tava charjuna. Tanyaham veda sarvani natvam vetha parantapa. So you and I have passed through many lives, Arjuna, but I remember all of them. You do not remember all of them, he says. Parantapa. So Parantapa again refers to scorcher of enemies, Arjuna. Bahuni me tava cha janmani vyatitani. Bahuni, many. Janmani, many births. Me and you have vyatitani. We have passed through many lives. Tani janmani sarvani aham veda. So the sarvani janmani, all the births, I remember. Aham veda. Tvam na vetha. You don't remember. You don't know. But all of us have gone through multiple lives. I have a memory of that. You don't. So that's all this verse is about. Sri Bhagavan vacha.
Shri Bhagavan uvacha.
Bahuni me vyatitani.
Bahuni me vyatitani.
Janmani tava charjuna.
Janmani tava charjuna.
Tanyaham veda sarvani.
Tanyaham veda sarvani.
Natvam vetha parantapa.
Natvam vetha parantapa.
Then he says, Ajopi san avyayatma bhutanam ishwaropi san prakritim swam adhishthaya sambhavam yatma mayaya. So he says, I am the Lord of beings, unborn and imperishable, yet restraining by basic nature, I incarnate myself by my own Maya. So he says, Ajaha, unborn, Ajaha api avyayatma, san bhutanam ishwaraha san, swam prakritim adishthaya, atma mayaya sambhavami aham. So ajaha api, even though I am unborn, even though I am avyayatma, avyaya means imperishable, avyayatma, one who is imperishable and unborn, even though I may be so, bhutanam ishwaraha san, even though I may be the Lord of all beings, swam prakritim adishthaya, restraining my basic nature, I incarnate myself by Atma Mayaya, by my own Maya. So Sambhavami. So I come again, I am born. So basically, what we should understand is, so if you are a devotee of Sri Krishna, this is a very easy verse to understand. There is I don't need to explain it. But if you are not a devotee, if you are skeptical, if you're wondering what does this mean, if you are being a little questioning, we have to understand that when we look at the Supreme Being, the way we have defined it, the Supreme Brahman, it's beyond space and time. The concept of space and time applies to only mortals, right? The space and time does not apply to the Supreme Brahman. In fact, like I have told you in the past, we also experience this flavor of spacelessness and timelessness in deep sleep. When we are in deep sleep, from our point of view, there is no space and time. It's only when we wake up, we realize. Now, how do you know that you've slept for 8 hours? It is because when you slept, it was 10 o'clock, and when you woke up, it was 6 o'clock. But after you wake up, you calculate the time and you say, oh, I have slept for 8 hours. But when you were in the state of sleep, you don't know how much time you slept. There is no time, there is no space, right? So we have experienced ourselves, but the concept of supreme is it is beyond space and time. And Maya, the divine power of illusion, the supreme veils its own inherent nature of spacelessness and timelessness to assume a role and a form that is relevant to a particular place, particular situation, particular time. Okay, so if the supreme being want to come on earth, then it has to come into the bounds of space and time. So therefore, if you say when we talk about Atma, we talk about the spirit, then it is unborn and it does not die. The Brahman has no birth, Brahman has no death. Vishnu or the supreme being, Shiva, Vishnu, Brahma, these people, they are timeless. But when there is an incarnation, right? Now we say that there is a Dashavatara of Vishnu. So now, for example, Rama is one of the avatars of Vishnu. So Rama was born at a particular time and he dies at a particular time. So Rama has a birth and death. Krishna was born at a particular time. Krishna dies at a particular time. So there is a birth and death for the avatar, but Vishnu is eternal. So the idea is that supreme being suppresses its natural basic nature to by Maya for the sake of larger welfare, which we will see in the next couple of verses. So again, pretty straightforward verse. Ajopi san avyayatma.
Ajopi san avyayatma.
Bhutanam ishwaropi san.
Bhutanam ishwaropi san.
Prakritim swam adishthaya.
Prakritim swam adhishthaya.
Sambhavamyatma mayaya.
Sambhavamyatma mayaya.
Then he says, Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyutthanam adharmasya tad atmanam srijamyaham. This is a very, very famous verse where he talks about whenever there is a decline of dharma, whenever there is a rise of adharma, I manifest myself in this world. So Bharata is a reference to Arjuna again. Yada yada dharmasya glanihi bhavati. You have to understand that. Adharmasya cha abhyutthanam bhavati. Tada aham atmanam srijami. So, yada yada, wherever, whenever, yada is when, every time that there is, so whenever, yada yada, dharmasya glanihi, there is a decline of dharma, there is a danger to dharma. Adharmasya cha abhyuthanam. So abhyuthana is utthana is rising. Abhyuthana is like like an astronomical meteoric rise of adharma, like something really totally messed up, right? Abhyuthanam adharmasya. Abhyuthanam bhavati. Tada, yada this happens, tada is then. When this happens, then aham atmanam srijami. I manifest myself. I am born. I take incarnation. Whatever. Now, dharma is something that sustains everything, right? It is the harmony in the universe that sustains the greater good, and by definition, dharma protects one who protects it. So we have seen there's a very popular saying, dharmo rakshati rakshataha. So dharma is such a thing that when you protect it, it protects you. So it's like even our natural environment. When we take care of our natural environment and we don't, pollute, and we are ecologically friendly, then nature nourishes us by giving good air, good water, and keeps us healthy and safe. So it's a mutually nourishing activity. Okay, there's a question from Vibhu Bharadwaj. I'll address this later at the end of the class. So this is a very, very popular verse, I think, repeated often. And after the next verse, we'll go into a little bit of explanation of this. So let's just recite this one. Yada yada hi dharmasya.
Yada yada hi dharmasya.
Glanir bhavati bharata.
Glanir bharata.
Abhyutthanam adharmasya.
Abhyutthanam adharmasya.
Tadatmanam srijamyaham.
Tadatmanam srijamyaham.
Then he says, Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. Again, another very popular shloka. To protect the good, to destroy the evil, to firmly establish dharma, I manifest myself time and again. So sadhunam paritranaya. Sadhunam is the good people, sadhus, noble people. Paritranaya, to protect. So, like we say, mantra. So, manam trayate iti mantraha. So, that which protects the mind is called mantra. So, paritranaya is the protection, the the nourishment, the taking care. So, to protect, basically, protect the good. Dushkritam cha vinashaya. Dushkritam is evil, wicked people. Vinashaya, to destroy. Dharma samsthapanarthaya. Dharma samsthapana artha. For the sake of dharma samsthapana, for the sake of establishing dharma. Remember, he says yada yada dharmasya glanihi. So there the dharma has declined, and abhyutthanam adharmasya, right? So adharma has gone up. So to do a course correction and dharma samsthapanarthaya, for the sake of establishing dharma, yuge yuge sambhavami. Every era, every eon, every yuga, I am reborn. Now, when we look at these two verses together as a unit, basically what it is referring to. Now, again, like I said, if you are a devotee of Bhagavan Sri Krishna, it's very easy to understand. You have all the cultural context that there is the avatara and so on. But if you are a little more skeptical, if you are wondering what really this means, what is the implication of these verses, now, when we say sadhu here, it's not just only noble people, but also the ordinary people. Because in a case of violation of dharma, even the ordinary man, whether he's good or bad, with all his difficulties and challenges and weaknesses and limitations, he's also subject to a lot of trouble. And they are exploited by wicked people, evil people. So when there is no dharma, when there is lawlessness, That is when the powerful and the wicked will exploit the weak and the good and the noble and so on. Now, when we look at history, there is no part of no. I mean, there is no part of the world we see historically that one group has oppressed another group for 1,000 years, 2,000 years. It's not possible because at any point of time, whenever there is a violation of dharma, now we have seen that dharma is a universal concept. It has nothing to do with India or Hinduism or Sanatana Dharma. It's a universal concept of sustainability. Anything that is sustainable, anything that supports natural goodness is dharma, right? It's going towards a state of harmony. That is dharma. This is applicable to any country, any part of the world. When there is a violation of that, when things become unsustainable and there is a crisis, then history has shown that there is somebody, a person who assumes leadership and brings about a change, right? So then there is some development that happens. So even in there's complete, even like where there has been great wars and everything, some reform movement has started because of that. Some good things have come out of that, and after a period of 50 or 100 or 200 years, definitely there is a change. So here in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna presents the concept of avatara without limitation of space or time. So it can happen anywhere. So if there is a place where there is a lot of adharma and violation of dharma happening, that will not sustain beyond a point, and then the innate goodness of human beings will push back and will give opportunity to some great leader to emerge from the chaos. We see that in so many countries, so many cultures across time, not just now, but 100 years back, 200 years back, like this. People come, no, I mean, just as an example, I'm saying, but if you take the Indian freedom movement, starting from the 18th century, with the Sannyasi rebellion. So after, for those of you who know Indian history, it is the Battle of Plassey of 1757 when the British rule over India became strengthened. Within a few years, there was a great sannyasi rebellion where people who are sannyasis, who are supposed to be, completely detached from everything, they realized the dangers of the British rule, and there was a rebellion. Starting from that all the way to 1857 war and everything, there has been continuous effort, and finally, 1947, there was freedom. So, like this, whenever there is a violation of dharma, people emerge to try and restore the balance. So, like this, we see Krishna presenting the concept of avatara without any specific things. He's not saying this only applicable to one person, but we should take it as something, as a general principle. Then it makes more sense. So, paritranaya sadhuna,
परित्राणाय साधूनां
vinashaya cha dushkritam,
विनाशाय च दुष्कृतां
dharma samsthapanarthaya,
धर्म संस्थापनार्थाय
sambhavami yuge yuge.
संभवामि युगे युगे.
Then he goes on to say, Janma karma cha me divyam evam yo vetti tatvatah tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mameti sorjuna. So, he who truly knows the scheme of my divine birth and deeds is not reborn when he leaves the body. He comes to me, Arjuna. Arjuna, yah me divyam janma karma cha tatvatah vetti, one who knows, yah, who, me divyam, my divine, janma karma cha tatvatah, one who fully understands the scheme of my divine birth and my activities, tatvatah, one in reality, vetti, who knows, saha, such a person, deham tyaktva, having discarded his body, punarjanma na eti, he's not born again. Mam eti, he attains me. I think this verse perhaps indicates that one who comprehends life in its entirety, one who understands the nature of the Supreme, is liberated. So, again, like I said, for somebody who is for a person who's a devotee, it is very easy to understand this. But for somebody who is not a devotee or who has a more analytical bent of mind, we can understand it in this manner, that one who comprehends life in its entirety is liberated. Janma karma cha me divyam.
जन्म कर्म च मे दिव्यम्
Evam yo vetti tatvatah.
एवं यो वेत्ति तत्त्वतः
त्यक्त्वा देहं पुनर्जन्म
त्यक्त्वा देहं पुनर्जन्म
नैति मामेति सोऽर्जुन.
नैति मामेति सोऽर्जुन.
वीत राग भय क्रोधा मन्मया मामुपाश्रिताः बहवो ज्ञान तपसा पूत मद्भावमागतः. Freed from passion, fear, and anger, thinking about me, dedicated to me, and cleansed by the power of wisdom, many have attained my state of being. So he says, Vita, Raga, Bhaya, Krodaha. So devoid of, Vita is devoid of Raga, passions, attachments, love, Bhaya, fear, Krodha, anger. So Raga, Bhaya, Krodha. We also saw this, in the second chapter. Remember, Dukheshu Anudvigna Manaha Sukheshu Vigataspuraha Vita Raga, Bhaya, Krodha Stitadhir Muniruchate. So same Vita Raga, Bhaya, Krodha Manmayaha Mam Upashritaha. So Manmaya, so one who is always like dedicated, always thinking about the Supreme, always lost in the thoughts of Supreme, and Mam Upashritaha, who's dedicated to me, who has taken refuge in me, Jnana Tapasa Putaha, so cleansed by the power of wisdom. Jnana, it's a tapas of jnana. That means a kind of wisdom itself is a austerity. Wisdom itself is a focus. So, like the power of wisdom, cleansed by the power of wisdom. Bahavaha madbhava magataha. Many people have attained my state of being. Now, this is a very, very important and interesting facet of the Indian school when you say religion is a very Western word, but when we look at the Eastern wisdom, Eastern schools of philosophy, Eastern schools of wisdom, like Hinduism, Buddhism, and these kind of religions, the very, very important distinction that we see between the Western school of thought, the Semitic school, and here is he says, doing all these things, many people have attained my state of being. They have reached my level. So no other religion, no other system of theology will have their God tell you can reach my state. So the assurance that one can attain the highest level equal to that of the deity is a concept that is absent in the Western schools. So this, I think, is a huge distinction, and it's a very, very great hope. It's something that inspires people that if you follow the steps, you can reach that highest level. So it's not like you do everything you want, whatever you do, if you follow the instructions to the letter, but you will always get 98 out of 100. So what is the motivation for that student? And the other, in another case, you say, you do this, all these things, you follow the instructions, and you too can get 100%, 100 or 100 or whatever, right? So here, I think this is a distinction, and it's something really very valuable, that there's an assurance that by doing this, you can attain this highest level, right? So if you want to become the greatest musician, then if you follow all the paths and if you are focused on, you're listening to the greats, you're working and you have natural talent and you have interest and you're working with the right people, you're listening to the best minds, you're not distracted by other things, there's a chance that you can become also the best musician or dancer or painter, whatever it is. So this is a very inspiring verse in that sense, that it gives a lot of assurance that you can also reach the highest, provided you follow the instructions. Vita raga bhaya krodha
वीतराग भयक्रोधा
manmaya mam upashritaha
मन्मया मामुपाश्रिताः
bahavo jnana tapasa
बहवो ज्ञानतपसा
puta madbhavam agataha
पूतामद्भवम् आगताः.
puta madbhavam agataha, correct.
पूतामद्भावम् आगताः.
Agataha. So they have been cleansed by the jnana tapasa. So, and they have attained mad bhavam. They have attained my state of being. Then he says, Ye yatha mam prapadyante tams tathaiva bhajamyaham mama vartmanu vartante manushyaha partha sarvashaha. So everywhere humans pursue a path to attain me, and in whatever manner they approach me, I reward them accordingly. Then he says, these are like a joint verses. So, Kangshata karmanam siddhim yajanta iha devataha kshipram hi manushe loke siddhir bhavati karmajaha. Those who work craving for worldly success offer ritualistic worship to the deities. Indeed, in the world of humans, one attains material success quickly. Let's go to the previous, so verse by verse. Ye yathamam prapadyante tams tathaiva bhajamyaham mama vartmanu vartante manushyaha partha sarvashaha. This is Partha, again, reference to Arjuna. Ye mam yatha prapadyante. So all the people who try to pursue me, to attain me, tatha eva tan aham bhajami. So I reciprocate the manner in which people try to attain me. I try to reciprocate. So manushyaha sarvashaha mama vartma anuvartante. So everywhere, in all manners, human beings, they try to pursue a path to attain me. So everywhere people are trying to pursue the path to attain, well, it may not be in, like I said, you should not take it in a very, very specific sense. In case you are not, like a bhakta, you can always look at it from a general point of view. So he says, Ye mam yatha prapadyante tatha eva tanaham bhajami. So the manner in which they approach me, I reward them accordingly. So this is what happens even with nature. So as a simple rule of thumb, what I do is whenever I'm faced with certain questions, being a little more skeptical in my approach, a little more analytical rather than devoted. My personal nature is such. So I tend to replace Brahman with Prakriti, with natural environment. And many times we get the answer. We get understand the purpose of this. So if you believe in this, in Krishna, in the supreme being and the entire thing, then it's very easy actually. Then it's easier to understand. But let's say you are of this analytical mind, then you look at nature. In whatever manner you approach nature, it rewards us. You plant some 10 trees around your house. In a course of 10 years, you will have such a wonderful, environment, natural environment for yourself. It will get good breeze, healthy living. So everywhere humans pursue a path to attain me. Here one can look at, Brahman as a symbol of Ananda. Everybody want to attain the higher state. What is the meaning of higher state? It means we want to be always happy. That's why I said moksha is eternal bliss. It is the independent eternal bliss. So if you're dependent on something, it is not moksha. If you're dependent, so I will be very happy. I just need my daily shot of some drug. I'll be very happy for the rest of the day. That is not moksha. That because you're dependent on something. If I get my daily coffee, then I'm happy for the whole day. No, then you're still, that's dependent. So independent bliss is moksha. If you, without depending on any external thing, you can always be happy, then you are Jivan Mukta, you are a realized soul. Right? So like that, all of us, all beings are trying to attain the supreme state, which is the state of Ananda, Sat Chit Ananda. Right? That is what is the state of the Brahman. Now, he says, he makes a distinction between the material and the spiritual. He says, we'll go to that verse now. So what is he says? Kangshata karmanam siddhim yajanta iha devataha kshipram hi manushe loke siddhir bhavati karmaja. So karmanam siddhim kangshataha, those desirous of worldly success, those craving karmanam siddhim kangshataha. So here karmanam means worldly actions. We should take it as worldly actions. So karmanam siddhim kangshataha iha, because here we say iha is in this world, not in the para, not in the hereafter, not in the post beyond life. It's not the beyond, it's here. So iha is very clear. Devataha yajante. So those who crave for worldly success, they pray to the deities. They offer ritualistic worship to the deities. They do certain actions that will propitiate the deity, that will make the deity happy so that they can get material success. Then he says, Tesham, that is to be understood, Tesham, hi manushe loke karmaja siddhi kshipram bhavati. So in the world of humans, manushe loke, material success. So karmaja siddhi, the attainments born of action, attainments born of material actions, kshipram bhavati is very easy. It comes quickly. So when we look at any kind of rituals, right? This comes from the prevailing geographical conditions, from the culture, from the manner in which the society has evolved over time. The rituals become more and more crystallized, and they have certain short-term gains. They inculcate basic discipline in us. They inspire us towards leading a better quality of life, more honest and more dedicated living, more dharmic approach to life. So rituals are a means to spiritual progress. So any rituals, they're all means, they're stepping stone to spiritual progress. But they should not become the ends. And also material success is something which is very tangible. It is very easy for you to see. You know, when you want to show off to the world, right? When you want to tell others that I'm a great guy, how do you show off to the world? By wearing a fancy watch, perhaps, by wearing a nice dress, or driving a big car, buying a big house, or taking a photograph with a celebrity. So all the manner in which you want to show that you're great and you want to show off is always through these material things, right? So I have not got angry in the last 10 years. Okay, not impressive. I'm wearing some watch which costs 23 crores. Oh, really impressive. Everybody comes to you. Oh, I have, I don't have any jealousy left in me. I have no matsarya. Okay, congratulations, bye. Whereas I'm having the latest iPhone 15 or 23 or whatever, everybody crowds around you. Because it's very easy to see material success. Whereas real true knowledge, real accomplishment of Indriya Nigraha or the Jnanopasana, these are very difficult. They're abstract. And there is no shortcut. There is no shortcut. I remember, if you will indulge me for a few minutes, I will tell you a story of what happened many years ago with one of my students who I was teaching violin. And one of my students, very, very promising, very good student, she used to play very well. And I became very good friends with her family as well. So her mother once came and told me, she wants a mobile phone. And this is I'm talking about 15 years ago, where it was not very common for children to have mobile phones. And she's also feeling bad that the parents are having very bad quality phones. This was really surprising to me because both the parents had decided to become entrepreneurs. So they invested a lot in their company and they were living very frugally because they wanted to make the company grow. So they were having some, very, very basic phones. And so this child was a little disappointed that, all her friends have these phones and her friends' parents have the fancy phones. And then her mother told me, can you just talk to her about it? So then she was learning, I think she had been learning for about 5-6 years by the time, and she was playing at fairly good level. And I said, you're so good at playing this particular composition, right? Which is a complicated piece. You're playing it in multiple speeds. So 2-3 speeds you're playing. It's called a Varnam in Carnatic music. So she was learning a Varnam in Natakuranji and they're playing in multiple speeds. Very complicated, not so easy. So I asked her, if Ambani wants to play Natakuranji Varnam in 3 speeds, you know how much time it will take? It'll take 6 years. But if Ambani wants to buy a phone, it'll take him 2 minutes. So what is more difficult? What is greater? Is it greater to have a fancy mobile phone, or is it greater to have a knowledge which can be acquired only by 6 years of practice? So people don't realize that it's so easy to acquire a material thing. I can go and I take some money from my account and go and buy something, and it's mine. It's a matter of 15 minutes. It's very easy to buy a book. But if I want to become knowledgeable, then the only way for me is to read through that book and apply. And Bhagavad Gita, at the end of the day, is a book. It's 300 pages or 200 pages. Or if it doesn't have any explanation, it's a 25. We can print it in 25 A4 sheets. That's all it is, Bhagavad Gita. But to implement it in our life, it's a whole lifetime. Sometimes is not enough. But the material part of it is very, very straightforward, right? So therefore, material success is easy to observe and you can measure. Somebody is growing. For example, in my when a child, if you when they're young, they draw on the wall. Oh, I am 4 feet today. I am 4 feet 1 inch. I am 4 feet 2 inch. So it's so easy to see the growth. The child is so excited. Oh, I have grown taller and taller and so on. But how do we measure in a spiritual journey? Is there any metrics? It is very difficult. Oh, I have, whether I've conquered anger or not, how do I know? How can I, maybe I am in an environment which doesn't make me angry. I'm very secure, but suddenly tomorrow I may face something which will enrage me. So it's very difficult. It's a challenge for any jignasu to find some metric to see how they are improving. Over time, they realize that this is pointless to measure. Just go on the path and you will be fine. But there is no shortcut to wisdom. There is shortcut to material things. You can quickly earn money, you can quickly do things, but you cannot quickly get wise. That is not there. Whether you follow by hook or crook, you can get money, but by hook or crook, you cannot get wisdom. Only by sustained practice it comes. So this is a very, very telling set of verses. Okay, let's get to that. Ye yatha mam prapadyante.
ये यथा मां प्रपद्यन्ते
तांस्तथैव भजाम्यहम्
तांस्तथैव भजाम्यहम्
मम वर्त्मानुवर्तन्ते
मम वर्त्मानुवर्तन्ते
मनुष्याः पार्थ सर्वशः.
मनुष्याः पार्थ सर्वशः.
कांक्षतः कर्मणां सिद्धिं
कांक्षतः कर्मणां सिद्धिं
यजन्त इह देवताः
यजन्त इह देवताः
क्षिप्रं हि मानुषे लोके
क्षिप्रं हि मानुषे लोके
सिद्धिर्भवति कर्मजा.
सिद्धिर्भवति कर्मजा.
Then comes perhaps the most controversial verse of the Bhagavad Gita. Chaturvarnyam maya srishtam guna karma vibhagashah tasya kartaram api mam vidhi akartaram avyayam. I have brought forth the 4 varnas. It is a classification based on guna and karma. Although I am their cause, I am unchanged and beyond all actions. So he says, guna karma vibhagashah maya. So, which is, classification based on guna and karma by me, maya, chatur varnyam srishtam. I have created, it has been created by me. What is this chatur varnyam? It is a distinction based on guna and karma. 4 varnas, social orders, were created by me. Tasya kartaram api, even though I am their cause, I am their creator, akartaram avyayam mam vidhi. I am unchanged and beyond all action. It does not pertain to me. I am unchanged. I am what I am. I am not changing, and I am beyond all action. Akartaram. I'm beyond action. But I have created it. In a sense, what is the second part of this saying? It is almost a natural creation rather than something which is forced. Okay. Now, it is worth spending a little bit of time to understand this verse, and later we will see the discussion on Varna in the 18th chapter. So, Varna refers to a categorization of individuals based on their basic traits, their attitudes, aptitudes, their inherent qualities, which come under guna, that is pertaining to their individual, pertaining to their personality. And karma is the work attuned to guna, or we can look at it as a chosen profession. So when one aligns with their swadharma, then it is karma is the work attuned to guna. Otherwise, sometimes it is when one violates the swadharma, it is not attuned to the guna, but karma is what we do. So the natural disposition of a person makes him or her more suited to pursue certain professions, certain set of functions. And this natural disposition and the action that they do, when that matches, when that aligns, then this person is living up to swadharma. And what is important here is that for a society to function, different people have to do complementary activities. So everybody becomes a doctor, then it is a problem. Everybody becomes a lawyer, it is a problem in that society. Everybody becomes a painter, everybody becomes a writer, it is a problem. So if left to its own devices, naturally society um, evolves in such a way that people take up things that are aligned to their interests, or things that are lucrative, things that will give money, things that will give fame, things that will give stability. Even today, that's the same case, right? So there are some people who are very, very passionate about certain thing, and they were willing to pursue that, and they want to go in that direction. And there are some people who are like looking for, they're not very particular about any specific activity, but they're looking for some kind of job which is well paying, which is stable, which doesn't involve too much of travel, which doesn't involve too much of disruption of their daily life. So like this all the time people are looking for certain activity. But the larger distinction of society into these four groups seems to have been done starting from the Vedic period. There was this concept of the kind of intellectuals and the people who are involved in religious theological activity, involved in teaching, involved in um, sort of officiating rituals and so on. So that was the group of Brahmanas. Then there was a group of people who are administering warriors, governance, protection, warfare, these kind of things, Kshatriyas. And there was the third group of the common people, which is the Vaishya, which in the early Vedic period, we see just three distinctions, three groups. So people who are involved in the the religious / intellectual activities, the people who are involved in governance and administration, and the common people, right? So this distinction, this further was the Vaishya, the what was called the Visha, the common man, further divided into merchants and agriculturists, traders, skilled artisans, who became the group of Vaishyas, and the service sector became the Shudras. So this is the broad definition, broad distinction of the society. And this distinction was based on guna and karma. So the innate ability of the person, the aptitude, the attitude of the person, the inherent untutored qualities of the individual, and the activities that they undertake. So a combination of both these things resulted in certain social grouping. And over a period of time, what has happened is that this is a very big topic, and there's a lot of discussion that has happened over time, and we have a lot of argument. It's even today a very, very big issue in society in India. It is a political issue, it is a religious issue, it is a social, cultural, at all levels. There is a big debate about this. This is a rallying point for several people, for elections, for reforms, for policy making, for so many things. Now, since we are specifically focusing our thing on the Bhagavad Gita, and our interest is to understand what the Gita says, therefore we should, for now, focus on the Gita. Then later we can look at some references from the Mahabharata and other texts which talk about it. But we clearly understand that Krishna's distinction is based is this classification of society is based on guna and karma. Now, karma is something which is clearly what is undertaken by the individual. It has nothing to do with the birth of the person. It is what the person is doing in this life, right? So anybody can do any karma potentially. There is always a possibility of that. Now, the guna part of it is where we have the untutored aspect of the personality, which has some relation to birth. Now, when we are born in a certain family, we are not born with a clean slate. We have certain innate abilities. We have certain natural skills or talents or weaknesses. Like, for example, not all children are born healthy. Some children have certain congenital problems. So, therefore, we can't say that everybody is born equal. We can't say that everybody is born free. We can't say that everybody is born in a clean slate. This is our observation of nature. If you go around and see the world, you will realize that people are not born equal. They are unequal. Somebody is born in a very, very rich family, somebody is not. Now, the reason for this is what is tried to, people have tried to explain using the theory of punarjanma and, the multiple births and, being born in certain family has baggages from the past. But even if you were to look at it from a very modern and scientific, so-called scientific point of view, it is simply that we all have certain baggage of the past in terms of the DNA, right? So in terms of whether I will be at this tall, I will have this particular skin color, I will have this particular shape of the nose, or I will have this kind of ability in intellectually, or I will have this kind of natural strength to pick up dance or painting or whatever. All these things, there's determined from birth. So now we look at more and more research happening in this area, and we are realizing that it is also important to realize what natural gifts we have. It's one part of it is the hard work and ability, and hard work and the efforts that we put. The other aspect is about the abilities that we have innately we have. So therefore, we realize that there are some things that come from birth. So to that extent, varna is related to birth. That from birth you have certain gunas that which can't be explained. I mean, you have seen it yourself. You have two kids. One kid, when they're 3-year-old, that child would have been very calm and relaxed. The other child would be wailing and shouting all the time. Your kids, two kids, one is so peaceful, other is very agitated. After 10 years, the peaceful kid might be very agitated, the agitated kid might become very peaceful. You would have seen this in your own life. So, therefore, there are certain innate traits which can't be discounted. It only makes sense for us to understand our innate traits. And based on this, there is a classification and distinction. And each of the varnas in the if you look at the history and the Dharma Shastras have discussed in great detail about it, each of these varnas have their own set of privileges and their own set of restrictions. And the more the privileges they had, the more the restrictions they had. Now, for a common person, right, today, if somebody on the street, somebody who is not known, wants to indulge in a certain act, which may not be seen as good. Maybe it could be getting drunk and falling on the road. Now, this is not seen as a good thing. But a common person who's unknown, who is like, just another guy on the street, he has no qualms in getting drunk and lying on the street. Nobody recognizes him. He wakes up the next morning at whatever, 10 o'clock, gets up and goes and manages his thing. But if you're a celebrity, if you are a well-known figure, you don't have the freedom to do that. You have certain restrictions, you have certain decorum. Now, if somebody does, a well-known celebrity does something wrong in a public space, they make a big hue and cry out of it because that person is setting a standard for other people. That person is an ideal to other people. Therefore, he has more restrictions placed to him, right? So I don't want to get into too much of discussion, but just for you to understand, it is a distinction made in the society for the smooth functioning of the society, and all the varnas contribute to building the society. Therefore, nobody is higher, nobody is lower. there are certain privileges enjoyed by different varnas, and that is directly proportional to the restrictions that are applied on them. In the earlier days, there was mobility across the varnas. Over time, it became rigid due to historical reasons. And today, the relevance of this is much lower. I think, again, over time now, there is going to be more mobility across this. And it is transforming into a different, in a different way. But that discussion is for another day. So let's just repeat this verse and then go to any questions. चातुर्वर्ण्यं मया सृष्टं
चातुर्वर्ण्यं मया सृष्टं
गुणकर्मविभागशः
गुणकर्मविभागशः
तस्य कर्तारमपि मां
तस्य कर्तारमपि मां
विद्यकर्तारमव्ययम्.
विद्यकर्तारमव्ययम्.
So in the same verse itself, clearly he says, I have created this thing and I am disconnected from it. Although I am their cause, I am beyond action. I am beyond all change. Okay, so let's look at this lot of questions. Vibhu Bharadwaj had a point. I was talking about deep sleep. So even we are intently working on something or fully focused on something, enjoying music or dance or a movie, you lose track of time. Again, that is a flavor. We call that rasa, and rasa is a kind of aesthetic experience, art experience, the joy from art or from this immense, immersion in something. Again, we lose track of space and time. So this is also very similar to the experience of deep sleep, but while being awake. Now, the difference between rasa and the ultimate ananda, like I said, moksha means independent bliss. So rasa, we are depending when we're intently working on something, when we are watching a beautiful movie or listening to fantastic music, there is an external trigger. As long as it lasts, we are in that state. But for a Jivan Mukta, for a person who has realized, he knows that his very state is that of happiness and he doesn't need anything else to be happy, right? So that's the thing. Concept of time. Okay, I'll probably take this up tomorrow, concept of time. Okay. Okay. We have a few minutes. The classification, why do we hear that Krishna is is from Vaishya community, not a Brahmana? Rama, Vyasa, Valmiki are not Brahmana. So, well, this is a very good question. Mamata ji has asked this question about why, if Varna is indeed determined by Guna and Karma, then Krishna should not be called a Vaishya or a Kshatriya, but he is a Brahmana. Rama and Vyasa, Valmiki are not Brahmana. So again, so there is like it is a very involved question. There is a long answer to it. There's no short answer, but well, I will try. Now, Varna is a social classification, like I said, and it is determined by your trait and your actions. Now, although you're born in a certain family, now what has happened over a time is that the family in which you are born, you get a tag that you're in this particular Varna. Now, the actions that they do might be very different. So, for example, Drona is born in a Brahmana family, but all the actions that he undertook were that of a Kshatriya. So, in effect, he is a Kshatriya, but still he is, treated as he is called a Brahmana. Similarly, now Valmiki or Vyasa. Vyasa's mother was a fisher girl and his father was a Brahmana, was a rishi. But Vyasa is considered to be part of the Shudra Varna. He's not considered to be a Brahmana or a Kshatriya or a Vaishya because of the social classification, because of the birth related. But if we were to apply Krishna's metric, which is given in the Bhagavad Gita, then definitely people who are involved in this kind of activity, which is, officiating yajna or teaching Veda or involved in some study of Shastra and so on, would be a Brahmana. Now, there's another thing which we see in the life of Krishna, for example. You can see he has his activities span all the four varnas. He is a charioteer to Arjuna, which is the role of a Suta done by Suta is a Shudra. He was born and raised, he was raised amidst the Vaishyas, who were all the community of cowherds and agriculturists and so on. So he grew up among Vaishyas. So he did all the activities that were very natural to Vaishyas when he was young. Then later he has fought wars when he came to Mathura and killed Kamsa. He fought many wars. He has lived and he is a great strategist. So he is definitely a Kshatriya. Then in the instances like the teaching of the Bhagavad Gita and so on, he has displayed intellectual acumen, which is aligned to that of a Brahmana. So in one person's life itself, we see multiple things. So therefore, Krishna has given a very broad distinction, right? So Rajeshwari ji, yes, Suta is a mixed jati, Brahmana mother, Kshatriya father, but it still comes under Shudra Varna. So any Anuloma Pratiloma Vivaha will come typically under the Shudra Varna. I mean, any Pratiloma Vivaha. This is a Pratiloma Vivaha where the Varna of the mother is higher than the Varna of the father. That's called a Pratiloma Vivaha, which will come under the Shudra Varna. So this is a very involved thing. I'm running out of time, so we'll continue this discussion tomorrow. And in the start, I'll also talk about the concept of time a little bit, and then resume with our discussions. So thank you so much. Om Tat Sat.
Om Tat Sat. Dhanyavad.
Thank you so much, Hariji.